What does it feel like to be the punchline of a room full of people who think they know you? Ethan Caldwell knew that sting all too well. The clinking of wine glasses and the low hum of smug laughter filled the opulent dining room of the Crestwood Manor, where the city's elite gathered for their annual gala. Ethan sat at the long mahogany table, his calloused hands folded neatly, his charcoal suit a touch too plain for the glittering crowd. They saw him as an outsider, a small-town nobody who'd stumbled into their world of old money and older grudges. He'd been invited out of obligation, a nod to his recent acquisition of a failing tech startup that no one believed he could revive. The whispers started before the first course. "Who does he think he is?" A woman in a pearl necklace sneered, her voice carrying just far enough. A farmer's son playing tycoon. A man in a velvet blazer chuckled, sipping his Bordeaux. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he kept his eyes on the untouched plate of filet mignon before him. He'd learned long ago that words cut deeper when you let them show. The laughter grew bolder as the night wore on. A silver-haired banker leaned across the table, his smirk sharp as a blade. "Tell us, Ethan, how's that little project of yours? Still digging through the scraps of that bankrupt company?" The room erupted, their laughter a chorus of condescension. Ethan's fingers gripped his napkin under the table, but his face remained a mask of calm. He'd spent years building something from nothing: sleepless nights, scrapped knuckles, and a stubborn belief that grit could outshine privilege. He wasn't here to beg for their approval. As the dessert plates were cleared, the mockery reached its peak. A young heiress, her diamond earrings catching the chandelier's light, leaned forward. "Ethan, darling, why don't you tell us about your big plans? Maybe we can toss you some pocket change to keep the lights on." The table roared again, their laughter a tidal wave meant to drown him. Ethan's heart pounded, not with shame, but with something fiercer, a fire that had carried him through every door they'd tried to slam in his face. Then, a soft tap on his shoulder. His assistant, Clara, a woman with a quiet efficiency that matched her sharp intellect, leaned in. Her voice was a whisper, meant only for him. "Sir, your jet is ready." The words were a spark, igniting something unshakable in Ethan's chest. He stood slowly, his chair scraping against the polished floor, drawing every eye in the room. The laughter faltered, replaced by curious glances. "Excuse me," Ethan said, his voice steady, almost gentle. He adjusted his tie, the faintest smile tugging at his lips. "I have somewhere to be." The room fell silent, their smugness unraveling as Clara handed him his coat. The banker's smirk faded. The heiress's eyes widened. Ethan walked toward the door, each step deliberate, his head held high. Whispers followed, but they weren't mocking now, they were questions, laced with unease. Who was he, really? Outside, the night air was crisp, and the sleek silhouette of a private jet waited on a nearby airstrip, its engines humming softly. Ethan didn't look back as he climbed aboard, Clara at his side. Inside, the leather seats and polished wood spoke of a world he'd built, not inherited. As the jet taxied down the runway, Clara handed him a tablet displaying the latest figures. His startup had just secured a billion-dollar contract, the kind that would reshape the industry. The news would break tomorrow, and the dining room vultures would choke on their own words. Ethan leaned back, staring out at the stars blurring past. He thought of his father, a man who'd toiled in fields under a relentless sun, teaching him that respect wasn't given, it was earned. He thought of the nights he'd spent coding in a cramped apartment, fueled by coffee and a refusal to quit. The laughter from the gala echoed in his mind, but it didn't sting anymore. It was just noise-proof. They'd underestimated him, just as they always had. The jet soared higher, carrying him toward a meeting in Singapore with investors who saw what the Crestwood crowd couldn't. Vision, resilience, a man who'd clawed his way to the top. Ethan wasn't just a farmer's son anymore. He was a force, a name they'd whisper with awe instead of scorn. And as the city lights faded below, he realized something profound. Their laughter hadn't defined him. It had freed him. Because sometimes, the greatest victories aren't in proving them wrong. They're in knowing you were right all along.